Everybody's got a to-do list. I have a to-do list, and item number 3 is make to-do list. Do you get it? Drop off the dry cleaning. Pick up some milk. Here's an idea. Let's save hundreds of dollars on car insurance. Now that I really do want to do. And the good thing is you don't have to drop off or pick up anything. All you have to do is go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. I'm doing it. Extra money in my pocket. I want it. It just may be the most rewarding to do you do today.
Now Podcast One brings you Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
Here we are.
I'm ready.
We're in Beverly Hills. I'm with Ed Begley Jr.
Spike.
This is very exciting.
Me too.
I've been on vacation for a week. I haven't done one of these in a long time, and I was so excited when they called and they said, we have Ed Begley Jr. He's got a new show on ABC. It's called Bless This Mess. It premieres Tuesday, April 16th. He is one of 3 big stars in the show. I believe Lake Bell is in the show, and our friend Dax Shepard.
Who I love.
He's one of the greatest. Car
and
dude.
Lake, the two of them, they're all so great.
And, you know, you're just one of my favorite actors. I said yes Spike. Immediately. I said, I got to have Ed on the show. I know so much about you. And we're going to get to the show. We'll get to your new ABC show. But, you know, a lot of people credit Elon Musk with the whole electric car movement. It's become very fashionable to do so. But really, this fella right here, Ed Begley Jr., he's the guy. He's the pioneer.
Believe it or not, I got my first electric car in 1970.
1970.
When I say car, I'm being quite grand. It was a golf cart with a windshield wiper and a horn. It wasn't much of a car. It had a top speed of 20 miles an hour.
And so it was a real golf cart,
not
registered.
But licensed for the street. It had a California license plate. I bought it from a guy called Dutch in Reseda. I was the only person under 70 that bought one from me. Everybody else was in Cathedral City or something going, and I was doing the same, but in Studio City.
I know where you live. But let's go back to Dutch and this golf cart in the 70s. How is Dutch getting these golf carts on the road at that moment?
They got around some law by, having it had a windshield wiper and a horn, and it was for retirement communities. You're allowed to take it on. It was considered what now is called, it's classified as a neighborhood electric vehicle, and then a NEV, an NEV.
Right.
You can't take it on the freeway. You really shouldn't even be on, Sherman Way with it probably.
Wow, so that's what these things. I see these on the west side of L.A. Every once in a while I'll see this big elongated golf cart type thing. That you can drive those just in neighborhoods in Los Angeles? But
yeah, you can't go on the freeway.
But can I take it on the Pacific Coast Highway?
Yes, you can. I think you can take. Now, wait a minute. Let me get back to that. That has a speed of 55 miles an hour, so I'm not sure about that.
No, it's not 55. People are driving about 80.
I meant PCH has a speed of 55.
I think it's 45 on the PCH for the most part, but people aren't driving 45.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these have a top speed of 35, so I think it's probably not good for. I wouldn't take it on PCH.
Wow. And what else is in this class of vehicle that you know of? I love this idea.
I can't remember who makes them, but there was a bunch of them. In the 90s that people had because there weren't the cars with plugs that we have today. But I just looked in the yellow pages is how I found it, Spike, in 1970. I looked up just to please my recently deceased father, in the afterlife. I went, okay, I want to do something about the smog, and, I should get an electric car, but nobody makes them. But how do I know that? I should look in the yellow pages. I'm not going to find it. Electric vehicles. There was one little slug that said Dutch in Reseda. Electric vehicles, and so I went in and bought one for $950, and I sold it for about the same.
Is Dutch still there? Is he still around?
No, he died years ago.
Wow.
He was the stepfather of my friend Rick Fish. So, Rick, if you're listening, please tell me more about Dutch and the electric cars.
Rick Fish is definitely listening. Let me ask you this. You say to please your father.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Because my dad was a guy that he was interested in what I was against. I was against smog and against the war and all that stuff, but he was a conservative and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a guy that believed in actually doing stuff. So he said, don't tell me what you're against. What are you for? What are you doing about the smog? So I rode my bike. I took public transportation, but I wanted a car for when it was a rainy day or a really smoggy day. I didn't want to ride the bike or take a bunch of groceries. So I got this electric car, to actually do something about the smog.
Right.
And I did it. He just died. He died a few days close to the first Earth Day, and so I wanted to do some stuff. I got involved in the first Earth Day with all this green stuff. I started recycling and composting, as I said, riding the bike and taking the bus. But I wanted to do everything I could, so I bought an electric car for $950, and I moved up the transportation ladder to a Peugeot bicycle that I drove around Boulder, Colorado. I moved to Boulder in 1971.
Now, I remember all of this. You know, being a comedy writer, primarily in the 90s, the Ed Begley, punchline of you won't you won't fly across the United States, you had to ride your bike. There was even a character in The Simpsons based on you, right? In the episode Homer to the Max, where you used a non-polluting go-kart powered by your own sense of self-satisfaction.
That is correct. I finally became a star in the eyes of my children, my now grown children.
But now it doesn't look odd at all. That's what I mean. It's like, I'm here to maybe point out, and maybe it's been pointed out lately, but I don't think I've heard this yet. I remember how I used to think of you, but now I'm thinking you have as like the pre-Elon Musk Elon Musk. You are the guy who I think made all of this happen. You got into our heads.
You're being very generous, but thank you.
But you are, right? I mean, who else? Who else was pushing the electric car before
Alexandra
Elon Musk?
Paul was big time. The
Who
actress
is that? Is that
she's
Jake
an actress.
Paul's dad?
She was on she was on Baywatch. Wonderful actress.
Okay.
Lovely lady. She had an electric car and promoted it like crazy.
I don't know.
There's a few other people. I can't
it.
think of them right away.
I remembered you.
Here's what I loved about the electric car. This is the thing I always promoted. I know for a fact you can't make gasoline on the roof of your house. I also know that you can make electricity on the roof of your house. So I figured I could make the fuel to drive the vehicle with solar, and I did just that too also in 1970. I put solar on my roof.
So how did you, you have to do press in New York, because you've been in television and film for a long time. You've been very successful. You could be one of the most successful character actors I've ever seen in my life. I was looking at your credits yesterday, and in my mind, the IMDb page just keeps going, and it gets more mind-blowing the deeper you get into it. Because you start getting down to Wonder Woman, Happy Days, Mary Hartman, Fantasy Island, Quincy, Laverne and Shirley. You want me to keep going? Room 222, Charlie's Angels, something called Charlie and the Angel, Starsky and Hutch, Battlestar Galactica, MASH, Maude, Mannix, Adam 12, The Nanny and the Professor. These are all the shows I grew up on.
I've had a rich and colorful career, haven't I, Spike?
My Three Sons.
My first day in show business.
And, of course, one of my all-time favorites, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy 2.
Classic.
Wait, so your first job is My Three Sons?
I got a job finally. I wanted to be an actor from the earliest age. Interesting slip there. I'll talk to my therapist about that. But I wanted to be an actor from the earliest age, but I had no training. I was like the son of a plumber. I wanted to be a plumber, but I did an apprentice. I thought I'd just go in the truck and you fit the pipes together. It looks easy. And I never got any work. I'd go on interviews somehow. I'm sure my dad set them up. I don't know how I got these interviews. I never got a day's work. Finally, I took some training, and I got a job 1967 in July on My Three Sons, one day in Screen Actors Guild. I had a paper route at the time. I left my makeup on, Spike, hoping that people would recognize me and go, wait a minute, you have makeup. Are you an actor?
Wow.
The show hadn't even been shown.
What was it like being on that set if you've never really acted before?
It was exciting beyond words because I had always been a guest on sets with my father. On Single Mom Molly Brown and different shows.
Now, why was he on sets?
My dad was an actor who won an Academy Award for Sweet Bird of Youth. He was a wonderful actor. He was in 12 Angry Men. Oh, wow. Fine actor. Right. So I got to be on sets a lot. Now, I was the guy in front of the camera, not him. And it was very, very exciting for me. And I figured the phone was going to ring off the hook now that the show had finally aired a few months later. Yeah. And it was like, the lonely Maytag repairman. I didn't get much work at all. But I built and finally started working.
The expectation of what's going to happen when you get on TV.
Right.
And then when nothing, especially nowadays. Yep. Nothing really happened. Nobody sees anything, it feels like.
I know. There's so many channels. Back then it was a little different. If you were on a show like Mary Hartman, something like that, there were really 3 network channels, and occasionally, like Mary Hartman was on Channel 11, and that was, syndicated around the country. It was a huge deal to be on a show like Happy Days even or something like that, those shows that I did in the 70s. It was big stuff. To be on St. Elsewhere in 1982 through 88 was a huge thing. There were really 3 networks.
Through, right?
It was not even a Fox network.
That's where we learned the name Ed Begley Jr. is St. Elsewhere.
That's probably true.
Right? That is your big job.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Was your dad jealous of you when you suddenly were this new, younger, hotter?
He never saw any of
Begley?
that. I did the My Three Sons and a job here or there, very few acting jobs. I became a camera assistant because I wasn't working the way I wanted to be, and I wanted to support myself and not rely on him. So I
Right.
worked as an assistant cameraman for years, and then finally the acting picked up with Room 222 was kind of the thing that got me into being a working actor. I did about 8 different episodes of that, I think.
Why did you want to support yourself and not have your dad do it? Because I did the same thing, but I'm not sure it's for the same reasons.
Mine
I wanted
was,
to get out from under the thumb of my parents.
there was that when he was still alive, but then he passed away in 1970. I didn't really begin to work as an actor till after he passed. And so I wanted to do what he did and honor him with his, he never used the word environmentalist, but he was one. We turned off the lights and turned off the water and saved string and tin foil. He was the son of Irish immigrants. He'd lived through the Great Depression. So I wanted to honor him with all this green work, and I did that.
Wow. All right. What did you drive here today?
I got my Nissan Leaf.
Yeah, you're in the Nissan Leaf.
I love it.
Are you getting the new one?
I hear the new one is even better. So maybe
It
if
is.
the show gets picked up, if you do other episodes, I'll give you a ride in it. Yep, I will.
How old is this Nissan Leaf?
This is a 2014.
Is it 2014?
It was a great deal. I leased it at first for 3 years, and a few years short of the lease,
Yeah.
I had the right to buy it at the end of 3 years. But a few years short of that, they called me up and said, if you want to buy the car, you can buy it and not just lease. I said, I know, 18 grand. I said, if you come in this weekend 3 months early, we'll sell it to you for 10. I said, I'll be by with my checkbook. So I got all in 22 grand.
So take me back, because I have so many questions. Is it, I heard a rumor, or maybe I heard this somewhere down in the history of my brain, that you were going to the Oscars and you rode a bike to the Oscars, right?
I've ridden my bike
Is that
a few
true?
times. That is a true story. Rode my
The most
bike.
prestigious event in entertainment, you rode a bicycle.
Schwitzing like a chazer. I'm just sweaty beyond description, but I stopped somewhere and I changed into the thing. Then one year it rained. I was like a wet dog at the Oscars because it rained and I had like a windbreaker on, but it just got wet all around and through
so
the
great.
windbreaker, and I was a mess.
So you live in Studio City, right? If I'm not,
Yeah, I do. So
okay. So and where are the Oscars at this point on this
at
first
the
bike
Dolby
ride?
Theater.
Downtown?
No, Dolby and Hollywood and Highland.
Okay.
So I would go over Cahuenga Pass in bike clothes, and then I would change. A friend had a place, a bathroom I could use at Hollywood and Vine.
Are
I
you
would-
carrying your tuxedo on your back, or
It's
is it
in a
at your friend-
pannier, in a little bag that's on the side of the bike. So
your
it's
whole
all-
tuxedo?
My whole tuxedo, the shoes and everything are all there.
And what? So the event starts at 5.
Yeah.
And what time do you leave your house in Studio City?
I leave like 3 or something like
3
that.
o'clock. Wow.
And I get there at 3:30 at Hollywood
Okay.
Vine. I change, and I was fine. I was going to make it to the Oscars. My windbreaker was just drizzling lightly. I got nearly all the way there. I realized I left my cell phone back at Hollywood and Vine. I went back, and then to go yet again to Hollywood and Highland, it's pissing water. It's just raining like a son of a bitch.
Yep.
So now I'm soaked, beyond description with this bike, and it was a nightmare. But I did it a few other times.
Were you nominated that year?
No, I was not nominated. I've never been nominated.
Then why
for
did
what?
you go?
Because I was a governor of the Academy.
Oh, I see.
So I got to go every year. I took the subway a few times, too. I took the subway with my daughter just 2 years ago.
What about your kids? Are they doing this? Did they inherit this
Oh,
from
yeah.
you?
My grown kids are eco-warriors. They're amazing. They're beyond
Wow.
me. And my 19-year-old is the same. They're all doing great green work.
My wife is like you all. When she said, "What are you doing today?" which she rarely asks, by the way. I said, "I'm going to go interview Ed Begley." And she's, "What? You're kidding me?" And she tried to come. She
Give
is
her my
also
love.
a
I wanna meet
progressive
her.
eco warrior. She
Bless
wants
her.
to meet you, but I couldn't let her in here. I wouldn't get a word in edgewise during this podcast. It would be a completely different kind of podcast. All right. So from that moment of this bike and this golf cart in the 70s, I just want to go back and kind of look at your electric car history. You get the golf cart from, who was it again? What is his name? Rico?
Dutch.
Dutch.
Dutch and Reseda.
Okay. Dutch and Reseda.
Rick Fish's stepfather.
Okay. How long do you drive that before you say, you know what, I don't think this is working for me. There's no sides on it, or, if I
It
could
had
hit
canvas doors.
the canvas doors. All right. I think I remember this, actually.
Yeah, metal frame
You had
with a
this for a
canvas
while,
door.
right? Did you have this in the 90s still?
No, I got rid of it about a year later.
Okay.
I got a bicycle and moved to Boulder, Colorado, so I
you
didn't
did?
need a car.
Well, how do you do that? Are you getting on airplanes, coming back and forth to LA?
Yeah, I took a few plane rides back then. As I do now, if I have to get in a plane, here's my transportation hierarchy.
Okay.
Number 1 is walking.
Right.
I live in a neighborhood in Studio City I can walk. Number 2 is a bicycle.
Okay.
Number 3 is public transportation. A distant 4th is the electric car. 5th is a hybrid car. You know, if I need to take my wife's Chevy Volt to drive to San Francisco or something, I'll do that.
Okay.
And then the 6th would be flying. Occasionally, I must fly. I have to be Monday in L.A. and Tuesday in New York for something for the series or whatever. I will get in a plane like a good soldier and do it. I will try to Skype or do whatever I can. I'll fight them every bit I can. But if they don't know, you've got to physically be here, I said, I will be there.
And in your opinion, has the air gotten cleaner here in California?
Much cleaner. We have 4 times the cars from 1970, millions more people, but a fraction of the smog.
Right.
I've got pictures to prove this.
Yeah, and what do you credit that? Is it electric?
All the stuff that we hope would work. Electric is a piece of it, but cleaning up the power plants, cleaning up the vehicles, vehicle pollution, catalytic converters on cars, combined cycle gas turbines instead of the dirtier power plants we had. All of that stuff worked to clean up the air. The clean fuel buses that they have, all that stuff, all the big and little stuff that we hope would work, it all worked. Spray paint booths, instead of spraying out in a parking lot kind of thing. Starting your barbecue, which is polluting, I understand, but starting it with newspaper instead of that charcoal lighter fluid.
Are people still even doing that?
Some
I mean,
people
I have that I have the propane one that I just go click, click,
much
click.
better. That's better than coal, of course. But some people like a coal barbecue, and so charcoal lighter fluid has VOCs in it, and that was a big, not a little piece of the smog pie.
Right.
So they came out with these little chimneys. You put the briquettes in with newspaper.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting anybody barbecue with briquettes, but if you got to do it, this was a cleaner thing. This was a drop in the bucket, and other things were a glass full and a pitcher full.
You were the Los Angeles Environmental Commissioner, correct?
I was.
Until you realized that you were destroying trees by all the paper the commission was using.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That was one of the things I said. There were other reasons why I just felt ineffectual. It wasn't like the Harbor Commission, the Police Commission. We go, we're going to do this. We're going to put more cops in the beat. We're going to close down the harbor because there's pollution. You didn't have that kind of – you were an advisory committee, as it turned out. So I could advise people to cut down pollution, what have you. And then there was all these minutes and, meeting minutes and other forms and what have you. Went, I'm trying to cut down on pollution. I'm not accomplishing anything I wanted to accomplish.
Wow.
And there's all this paper. There's very good people at the Environmental Affairs Commission then and now, and I was being kind of a dick to withdraw.
All right, let me ask you this, because this is something I hear about electric cars all the time. I don't know that it's true, and I don't even know if you know the answer to it. But there are people out there that say that it's these electric cars, yes, while they don't pollute, the creation of the battery is the moment where they're polluting, or the electricity that's that generating the electricity causes pollution in the air. Have you heard that?
I've heard both those things, and I can address them. There's good people with PhD after the name that have really done scientific studies and all this stuff.
Straighten me out on this.
First of all, batteries. Today's batteries are lithium batteries.
Okay.
People take lithium, they ingest it. There's supposed to be in their minds in the early 90s, there's going to be these landfills full of these polluting batteries. Where are those landfills? Where are those that'd be in the business section of the LA Times. These batteries are recycled. All the things are recycled to full EPA standards. That's that thing. The batteries are not toxic. The lead-acid batteries were more toxic. Lead is toxic, but they don't use lead-acid batteries anymore. But even the lead-acid batteries, like the battery in your car used to start your car, is probably lead-acid battery. All that lead is very valuable. They stopped putting in landfills in the 70s, really. There's a deposit on the lead-acid battery even. So that's the thing with the batteries. Batteries today are lithium polymer batteries. They're recycled. And we have to deal with all the e-waste. Don't get me wrong, every bit of e-waste from our computers and our cell phones and all of that. And we have to find a way to do that, not ship it over to Asia where kids are dealing with these toxics. But there's ways to do that, and lithium is not toxic. There's no big pollution, big pile of batteries sitting somewhere polluting.
Got it.
That's that. On the other side, drilling muds and the process of drilling and the air pollution with drilling rigs and the Exxon Valdez and the Deepwater Horizon. There's a lot of pollution on the other side. That's one thing. So the batteries are one thing. Also, even though the car is making pollution from a power plant, most of the pollution that you're going to have if you are a normal person. You're going to sleep at night and drive during the day, right?
Yep.
So you're plugging in at night. That's a very efficient time to use power. And as I said earlier, you cannot make gasoline on the roof of your house. You can make electricity on the roof of your house.
Right.
So the future is get an electric car, get a solar array. If you don't have too much shading on your roof, most people, 3/4 of the people out there don't have a shading problem or another kind of roof problem. That 3/4 of the people can charge their car with their roof.
I love it.
So
there you go.
There's pollution making my mountain bike. There's pollution in the plating processes and making the rubber tires and everything. But it's less pollution. It's a teaspoon compared to a tanker truck.
What about hydrogen fuel cell?
Very exciting. I hope they do it. Right now we have a great infrastructure with electric wires all over the country, so you can charge your car, and get around L.A. and around the country with an electric car. And I hope there's a hydrogen infrastructure one day. I hope they use what we now use for natural gas, for methane. They pump hydrogen throughout the system, and I believe that day will come. But for now, keep working on the hydrogen fuel cells. They're very expensive for now, but the cars with plugs are getting very cheap. Nearly anybody can afford them. They're building a lot of them in China and around the world. So electric cars for now, and other biodiesel, biofuels are very exciting too. Methanol, ethanol.
Are you ever going to switch? Would you switch to hydrogen fuel cell if there were more
if there
places
was
to
cradle
fill up?
to grave, really, if I had a way, as I do at home with my electric car, with my Nissan Leaf, I'm charging that fully on my solar. And when I have to go beyond the realm of my 9 kilowatts of solar, I have a green power program I pay 3 cents a kilowatt hour for. So I'm getting green electrons, for the additional charging that my solar array cannot supply.
They have that new Toyota Mirai, I think is what it is.
Very exciting car.
We were going to get it for Erica, but we just got a little nervous about there was only one place on the west side to fill it up, possibly two, but they were a little far away. And if you knew Erica, she would forget.
Yeah,
she's very busy.
That's why I got my wife a Chevy Volt, so she could drive.
I love the Chevy Volt. It's one of my favorite cars.
98% of the time she's on electric. 2% of the time she's on gasoline. But she has the security. She doesn't have range anxiety, worrying, am I going to run out of fuel?
Right.
So she's happy.
She just has regular anxiety.
Exactly.
Just
me.
That
would be called Ed.
I don't. See, as I sit here and I talk to you, I don't understand how every one of these manufacturers isn't lining up. The electric car manufacturers going, we need to get Ed Begley to drive one of our cars. We just got to give him one. So he's out there selling this stuff. You should be the You're more level-headed. Do you know Elon Musk? He seems a little nutty.
I've met him. Yes, I know him a bit.
He seems a little nutty. I would rather have you out there kind of representing this whole thing. You know it. You know it upside down. And if I were Nissan, I'd be saying, let's get him the new Nissan Leaf right now. Let's get him in that car. Let's just hand it to him for a few years. He's free.
They don't have to pay me anything because they already got me doing it for free. So
but you got the 2014. I want you in this new 2019 one.
Me too.
You've got more mobility in it. You've got more. It says the range is going to be about 226 miles to the charge.
When we get season 2, I'm buying one. There we go.
All right, we're going to talk about that show in a minute. But first, let's talk about Continental Tires. Think of all the weird things found in cars, and I'm not talking about your garden variety petrified French fries or melted crayons. I'm talking about snakes, bizarre trinkets, the kind of stuff that just makes you wonder about, folks. Another thing that will make you wonder, but in a good way, are Continental belts. Bet you didn't know they're OE in tens of millions of Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, and GM vehicles that roll off the assembly line. They're also OE on the majority of BMWs and VWs. Now Continental is launching the aftermarket multi-V belt with the OE pedigree. It's their OE Technology Series. Belts that are fantastically engineered for the perfect fit, form, and function. And Continental has OE Technology Series multi-V belt for 98% of the vehicles on the road in the U.S. and Canada. Hey, you get enough surprises working on cars and trucks. A belt shouldn't be one of them. Go with the Continental OE Technology Series multi-V belt, the belt with the OE pedigree. To get the full story, visit oetechnologyseries.com. Just read an ad. I don't usually read live ads.
Well done. You did it very well.
Did you enjoy that?
I did.
I realized about halfway through I didn't have my reading glasses on.
You did great then, my God.
Thank you. I couldn't really see the copy. All right, let's get down to television because, as you know, maybe you don't know, my two passions are entertainment and cars. And the listeners, you should you just got a whole bunch of car talk. Yes, it was electric car talk, but it's good for you. You need to know this is going to happen. There's an electric wave coming bigger than the blue wave in 2020, and you should get ready. Everything's going to be electric. Google what Volvo's doing right now. They're getting rid of their gas-powered engines. It's really going to be something.
Very forward-thinking company, Volvo.
Yeah, I wonder what I'm a big fan of them. But what's going to happen with all our sports cars? Porsche, those guys, they have one electric car. They're not going to go all electric. Are you okay with the Porsches at least?
I'm okay. I prefer electric cars, but I got friends that drive other cars. So if I judge my friends by their houses and cars, I wouldn't have any friends. So
that's right.
Allow that people can have a different thing.
I know right where you live in Studio City. I have so much respect for you as a man and a human being that you're just going a different way here in L.A. Right?
Thank you, Spike.
You have a simple, nice life, and it's funny. I've been watching it for a while, for a long time, for years, and now it seems like it was decades ahead of itself as a way of living.
You're very kind, pal.
Again, kudos to you, Mr. Begley.
Thank
Are you still keeping the junior now?
I keep it just for credits. When I say hello to somebody, they don't have to say junior. But for the movie and TV credits, I think it's a good idea so you can look in the TV guide or look in the not that people buy a TV guide anymore, but look in the credits and see who it is, me or my dad.
Yeah, it's funny. Because I'm a junior. I'm Michael Ferriston Jr.
I didn't know that.
And then when my dad died, I was like, do I get rid of that or not? But I had this showbiz name, Spike Ferriston, so I just thought, well, I'll just use that. But it's an interesting moment where you decide, now you have your SAG name, Ed Begley Jr., right? You don't want to change that.
I can't change that.
No,
I don't want
can't.
to.
All right. Let's talk about the new show. They sent me a little clip.
Oh, good.
And I actually watched it.
Thank you for watching.
Because I like you, and I like Dax, and Lake Bell is interesting to me because she's also a car person. Like she's someone we wanted on my show, Car Matchmaker. I've wanted her to come in here because she also likes cars. Dax, he's a maniac.
He is.
He's out on motorcycles and camping. Here was my surprise watching the show. I laughed.
Fantastic. That's a good sign.
I really laughed a lot. And that hasn't happened for me on a network show in a long time. Because, we've got lots of alternative comedy now on the streamers and the HBOs. And these networks have been behind the times. This show really made me crack up.
I'm very happy to hear that.
I was then very surprised to see that Lake Bell wrote it.
And she and Liz Merriweather wrote it together.
Liz Merriweather, and then she directed it.
Yep. She's a multi-talented young lady.
Let me tell you what it's about. Newlyweds Rio and Mike drop everything, including their jobs and their overbearing mother-in-law, to make the move from the big city New York to rural Nebraska in search of a simpler life. They soon realize that becoming farmers isn't as easy as they planned, and they are faced with unexpected challenges on the series premiere of Bless This Mess, April 16th, 9:30. And you play the character of Rudy.
Yep.
One of my favorite comedy names, Rudy. Very Letterman choice, Rudy.
Thank you.
And you are the demented uncle that comes with the property? I really
no
like
blood relation whatsoever, but I'm like this guy who's been given permission, or so he says, by the aunt that passed away, has been given permission to live in the barn because my situation has changed dramatically, so I'm living in the barn.
What I like about the character, what was unexpected, was it wasn't the charming Ed Begley Jr. character I'm used to seeing. Describe your character for the listeners.
I'm this, slightly damaged or heavily damaged man that lives in the barn where Dax Shepard and Lake Bell have moved from the city to the country, and I claim that their aunt, who is deceased and willed him this farm, I claim that she has allowed me to live there, and that might or might not be true. We'll see how that works out. But I'm a man that's, an elderly guy that's sequestered to one room and is looking for love. And believe me, I can relate. That's my situation at home. I'm married, so I'm sequestered to the man cave. I'm looking for love, and I'm deeply disturbed.
But you have a kind of angry drifter sentiment. You
I
don't
don't
smile.
I?
Your character doesn't smile. He speaks in short sentences. He sucks up the oxygen of the scene.
Yeah.
When you cut to you. We don't quite know what you're saying. We're not quite sure that if you're going to pull a weapon out or something. It's really funny.
Yeah, he's got a bit of PTSD, I think, this guy.
Oh, he does.
He has dog tags on. I believe he's a veteran. We'll see how that develops.
And you've also been allowed to use the bathroom in the house?
So I say. Because what do you do when you don't use? I said I use the bathroom here sometimes. What do you
Right.
do the rest of the time?
It's such a simple premise, and I started watching it. I just loved it. I just thought, well, a couple of things. Why is this premiering right now in April? Why wasn't this on the fall schedule? Is this just part of their year-round development cycle?
Well, we did it late last year. We did it as a mid-season
Oh, you did?
replacement. We did
Okay.
the pilot in like June or July, I think, of last year. So it couldn't have. I don't think it.
Okay.
Maybe could have been ready by fall, but that was
No.
never their intent.
Yeah.
And so it was hopefully going to be a mid-season, and that's kind of what it worked out to be. They had a slot open at ABC. It was originally to be a Fox show. Fox is the producing entity,
Right.
and Fox didn't have room for it. So then ABC, because a lot of people left Fox and went to ABC.
Right.
Some of those same people went, fantastic. We love the show. We were part of it over at Fox. We want it.
Oh, so it's 20th, or it was formerly
exactly.
20th.
Formerly 20th. 20th is the production company, and the people that air it are ABC.
Wow. So, you listeners probably don't know this, but there's only like 2 corporations right now running entertainment, and Disney and Fox put together. We're all still trying to figure out what it is. The Fox network appears to still be on the air, but everybody who was working there is now part of Disney and ABC. In any case, I like it better on ABC. And it's always, shows like this will come along mid-season, and they'll end up being the hits, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's expecting this show.
Right.
In the fall, we're expecting this big batch of shows, and they all get canceled by January. Now you're coming in mid-season.
And coming right in the heels of Blackish. We're right after Blackish, which is a great show that has a huge following. So I'm very happy with that.
Again, what caught my attention was just the comedy. There were jokes that made me – it's hard to make me laugh at this point.
I'm very happy to hear you laugh,
And you guys
Spike.
were making me laugh, and I thought the lines were unexpected and didn't go in directions. And, I guess I know Dax. I know who he is pretty well. I've met him a few times. I don't know anything about Lake Bell or Lee Merriweather, but I thought their writing was really sharp and funny.
New Girl was a great show. Liz did that show.
Right.
Single Parent. She's really a very funny and talented lady.
Okay. Well, I'm liking this one better.
And Jake Kasdan is involved, the wonderful Jake Kasdan, so we got nothing but talent.
This is huge. How do I get on the show? I think I'd like to come
You
on
just
the
did
show
it right
next.
now. You asked.
I want to be the neighbor there. What was the guy, Duke in Reseda, who sells the electric?
That's right, Dutch, right.
Dutch.
You'll be Dutch, selling electric cars in the middle of Nebraska.
You guys got to check it out. Trust me on this one. The pilot, Bless This Mess, is airing April 16th. You're listening to Ed Begley Jr. Were you ever on Batman, the original Batman?
I wasn't. I wanted to be. I love that show.
Tell me about some of these old shows, what they were like to be on. Because, Fantasy Island, okay? First
Yeah.
of all, you were on that?
I was on that. I played a hillbilly.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, where was that shot?
At the Columbia Ranch is what
So
the
here.
stuff I did was at the Columbia Ranch right here. And then I did another Fantasy Island. I did 2. I did another one where I was on board a ship. That was out of San Pedro. We shot out in the ocean. The day my grown daughter was born, my first child was born, I was shooting on a ship out in the ocean.
Wow, look at that memory.
Yeah.
I can't believe you remember all this stuff.
Yeah, but I did I did Love Boat later, and that was shot in a stage at like Santa Monica and Formosa. I think it was shot at that stage there, whatever that was called at the time.
Oh my God.
Love Boat was shot there. Fantasy Island was shot at Columbia Studios and the Columbia Ranch, and then occasionally on location was Fantasy Island, and we were out on a boat.
What were you
Donna.
doing in the boat? Do you remember?
I was putting bait in a bait well, and oh God, I got to think of his name. An actor. that
Hervé
since-
Valencius.
Not him, but there was a guy who was actually a prince. It was like Prince and the Pauper kind of thing. He was trying to be an everyman. He was working on a fishing boat. His
my
name was
God.
Dak Rambo. Dak Rambo was
Wow.
the guy playing the lead of that episode. I was a lesser character that was like a deckhand or something on the boat. That was the first one I did. The second one I did was 1979. That was 1980. Sorry, it was a Fantasy Island we did at Columbia Ranch.
When you go on to any of these shows, like Happy Days, Quincy, Charlie's Angels, I mean, was there an audition process like there is now for those parts, or did they just say, well, let's get Ed Begley to do this?
There was an audition process for some of them. I think for Fantasy Island, there was definitely an audition process. For Charlie's Angels, there was not. 'Cause
None.
I was a roller skater. It was the roller disco roller boogie period.
So what's that set like? You're on Charlie's Angels, right? You've got these beautiful girls. They must be. I've got the poster in my bedroom up on the wall at that moment.
Yep.
What is it? What's the set like on that? Is it a happy set? Is it a crazy set?
It was very happy. The ladies were very nice. They were nice to me. Shelley Hack and I had some scenes. Also,
wow.
Oh gosh, Cheryl Ladd and I had some scenes. Cheryl was very sweet. We became friends and would see each other on occasion. You know, just at social events and what have you. And always very nice. But I had a great time doing it. I was quite a good roller skater in my day, so I got the job because I was a good skater and could form a sentence.
Did you ever think about this traveling on roller skates?
I used to skate around the city a little bit, skate around New York a lot. I kept skates in a storage area in New York, so I would ride my bike. I had a fold-up bike I kept in New York and skates, and I would skate around Central Park, and I would ride my bike around New York.
I don't know anybody who's worked more than you. Now I'm going down just to the resume here of what you're doing lately. Modern Family, Future Man for Seth Rogen, Better Call Saul, loved you there. Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry. We didn't have you on Seinfeld?
No, I was never on that great show, but I loved that show, and Larry got me on Curb.
Do you know Larry well?
I do. I met him through my friend Michael Richards after
Michael.
They worked on Fridays together.
Mm-hmm. And after they worked, you weren't at Fridays.
I was not on Fridays, but I met Larry David then and became a fan. Then I worked with him on Saturday Night Live. He was a writer on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
And the first sketch, perhaps the only sketch that he had that made air on Saturday Night Live was a sketch that I was in, which I was in love with, and it was perfect. Larry David is like Seinfeld. It was this bit of minutia that turned into a big deal with people wrestling and fighting each other on the floor. It was just the total minutia that started it.
God, I could just keep going all day with you. We should just do multiple episodes of Spike's Car Radio with Ed Begley Jr. 6 Feet Under, Arrested Development, Portlandia. What show have you not been on? NYPD Blue.
Dukes of Hazzard. I never did a Dukes.
Dukes of Hazzard.
I never did Flo. Or Alice's. What was the Alice's restaurant one? I can't remember that one. It was called Mel's Diner. I can't remember. What was that called? Alice, maybe. It was called
Alice, right. Oh, my God. What about NYPD Blue? So you worked with my friend Dennis Franz.
Yeah, Dennis is a great guy, a dear friend.
One of the best.
I directed a couple of those episodes.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I haven't seen Dennis in a while, but I see Bill Clark, one of the producers of the show.
Yeah.
I see Bill quite regularly.
Dennis is around. He's I see him in the summers up in Idaho. He's up there with his squirrel gun, shooting at things that bite his boat wires.
Yeah, he's a great guy, Dennis.
He's the best. And we play poker and smoke cigars together.
That sounds like fun.
It's unbelievable. I'm sorry about the smoke, Ed.
No, you got to enjoy a cigar if you want one.
We do them inside. He has a fan contraption, but
there you go.
It's a great evening in my horrible, horrible year. Well, Ed, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming in and hanging out here, and I really appreciate your insight on the electric car. And,
thank you, buddy.
Again, I know a lot of you work for manufacturers out there. We have a lot of Tesla folks. We have a lot of Nissan folks. And now all of you have an electric vehicle. Jaguar has the I-Pace. I just drove it.
There you go.
I think you should all be getting in touch with Ed Begley Jr. and having him take these cars out and drive them and getting his feedback on them. I think this would be really helpful to you and your brands. How about that?
Bless your heart, pal.
And the new show is Bless This Mess on ABC, Tuesday, April 16th. Ed Begley Jr., ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Spike.
We'll see you next week on Spike's Car Radio. Quick before we go, 60 seconds. That's exactly how long this commercial lasts. You know what else you can do in about a minute? Get an offer with your car from TrueCar. That's right. In the amount of time it takes to floss your teeth, pet your dog, do a few sit-ups, just listen to my voice, you can get a true cash offer. Best of all, you can do it from your smartphone or at home. Just go to TrueCar and simply enter your license plate number and watch how your car's details pop up. Answer a few questions and you'll get an accurate true cash offer from local TrueCar certified dealer. It's that easy. After that, you can bring your car in and they'll check it out with you together, the two of you. You can even hug if you want. You can ask questions, get the answers you need, so there's no surprises, then simply leave your check or trade in your car for a new ride. So when you're ready to experience a new, better way to sell or trade in your car, check out TrueCar today.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio. Download new episodes every Wednesday on the Podcast One app or subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or PodcastOne.com.
Baseball season has arrived.
With the start of baseball season, Podcast One Sportsnet has all your bases covered. With the Dan Patrick Show.
You can't even spell strike.
The Rich Eisen Show.
But it doesn't matter if you get it moving if nobody's getting on base.
And Baseball and Chill.
Mike Trout will be paid close to $500 million. That is more money than you would ever know what to do with.
Don't miss Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, or Baseball and Chill all summer long on Podcast One Sportsnet.